Don't let the flashing lights fool you. Our next guest bet on himself and has been winning ever since. Even though Linour knew he'd have to work twice as hard for himself than he would for someone else, he left his day job and he and his business partner opened their first brick and mortar A&L cell phone repair. He then turned his passion into checks and launched his second business in video and photography, Allen Studios. Knowing he had much more to give and a love of community, he became the vice president of Georgia nonprofit Manna from Above, devoted father to his two gorgeous daughters, caring, generous, and driven. Welcome the man who is serious about his dreams, Linour Allen. Welcome, Linour. Welcome. I'm happy to have you.
Well, I'm happy for you actually even considering having me on your interview video. I really appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. You and I have known each other for, God, I don't know, 8 years. I was at Publix, 9 years. 9 years ago. Yeah, and I've just seen you just go leaps and bounds since then, and it's pretty dope. I've actually been impressed over the years.
Well, I appreciate that. I've been impressed with you as well because we both, started at Publix, and it's a long way to have to, grow up and learn, all the different life's trials and errors and stuff. So you've been doing really good yourself, especially, raising your son. That's a big step to have to raise, a son just like I have to raise, two daughters. Is very different.
Yeah, it is. And I appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah, raising children is not easy. Once you jump in with both feet and you've taken on that task, it's not easy, but it's definitely rewarding. And your two girls are gorgeous. Oh my God, they look just like you too. Awesome. You. So I know you have two businesses. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. First, I have a cell phone repair business. I've been in business for about six and a half years. We're located in Griffin, Georgia. The crazy thing about the cell phone repair business, I always knew that I wanted to have my own business, but I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And I also seen myself having multiple businesses because I like a lot of different things. So cell phone repair, I honestly did not know pretty much anything about repairing phones. Okay. But once I actually started working with someone that did, he pretty much took me under his wing, taught me pretty much everything. I'm not gonna say everything I know, but a good bit of what I know. And I was working under him in his business. And then the opportunity presented itself for me to start my own. So I just took that leap of faith. And to be honest, people, you can start a business with anything because, we started this business with $1,200.
Oh, wow.
So, don't say you got to make this much money before you start, or don't say, I want to get to this point before you start. Just start, because you'll always be waiting and you'll always, put doubt on yourself.
Right. So, right. How did you start with $1,200? Did you start like from your home? Was it mobile? How did it start with just $1,200?
Well, before I actually started, I was buying and selling cell phones. Okay. So, every time I would get paid, I buy another phone. So before you knew it, I had 10, 11, 12 phones. And then the opportunity presented itself. I put all of those phones on eBay and sold them, all at one time. And I accumulated that $1,200. And that $1,200 was to put the down payment on the location that I'm at now, as well as buy a couple parts and couple supplies to get started.
Mm-hmm.
So, everybody had to come in and place an order and a deposit down on whatever they needed repaired.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a slow process, but at least, it started, that process instead of saying I want to wait until I get a couple thousand in the bank before I get started.
Right. That's pretty dope. How old were you when you opened your business? A&L Cell Phone Repair.
23. 23 years old. I'm 31 now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
That's pretty dope. I don't think my mind was not there at 23 at all. I was still partying and having a great time. But of course, if you start at 23, then it leads you to much more stability by the time you get to 31. Some of us take a little longer to get to where you got to by 23. What inspired you to want a business of your own in the first place? Did you know a lot of business owners growing up? Is that something that you saw while you were young?
Actually, I didn't. I didn't. I didn't see too many people doing what I wanted to do. And I don't think I paid too much attention to an actual business. I just knew I like buying something and selling something, and then I like the whole business transaction. I like the interaction with the whole process of just selling or just being involved, with the transaction. Um, and I knew growing up, everybody used to, you get asked that question, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I didn't really have an answer. I just knew I wanted to have my own business. So it was a couple different, things in my life that kind of really showed me that I was pretty good at sales and just being able to market myself.
Mm-hmm.
This one instance in particular, you know how you do the candy fundraisers at school?
Yeah.
Well, I was doing a candy fundraiser and they were selling bags of candy. The bag was about $5 worth of candy.
Okay.
And it was a competition. Of course, you're competing with your friends in school and you're like, hey, I sold a bag today, or I sold, $5 worth of candy. And before you know it, we ended up, it was a cash prize for the top seller. It was first, second, and third place. I think third place got $25, second place got $50, and first place got $100. And she was reading out, how many bags each person sold from, the top three people.
Mm-hmm.
So the third person that won third place, they actually sold, I think it was like 34 bags.
Okay.
I was like, wow, that's a lot of bags.
Yeah.
I would have dreamed selling that many bags. And then it was like, okay, second place sold 41 bags. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's wow. And then she was like, first place sold 81 bags.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, there's no way I could have sold that many. And then she called my name. And I was like, I sold 81 bags? She was like, yeah, you did. And I was so caught up in just doing it
Mm-hmm.
that I really wasn't too focused on the money. I wasn't focused on anything but just the transaction and knowing that it was going to a good cause. So I took that 100 and bought more candy and just kept selling it. And then the school actually reached out to me and they was like, what are you selling that candy for? And they said, he was like, you have to get permission, from the school district. You have to, I'm like, oh, I didn't know, He was like, well, look, after you finish selling that, don't sell anymore. So it just, I don't know. It was a couple of things like that happened in life. It was a red flag, just knowing, hey, okay, I need to pay attention to this because I'm actually pretty good at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
It's funny. It seems to be a common theme in the interviews I've done so far that everybody who is working in their passion or really just enjoying what they're doing, they all had an inkling of it before. It was always there in the past. And sometimes we just don't pay attention to it. Like, nah, but I really rather do this. But once you like focus on that thing that's always been whispering in your ear, it seems to just kind of take hold and do really well. So that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. So,
well,
oh, no problem. That's all you. So I know you have two businesses. You have the A&L cell phone repair, and then you have Allen Studios. Tell me a little bit about Allen Studios and where that passion came from.
um, that was kind of funny because I feel like I ignored that one for a long time. My grandma, she used to tell me, um, she was like, "Hey, you need to take pictures. You need to take pictures." And I'm like, I don't want to take no pictures. But that was back in the day when it was, disposable cameras, and you had to do your own film, and it was a lot more complicated. And I think that process just kind of steered me, to the left on that idea. But I've always been interested in pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and quality. You know, I can look at a random picture of anything and just like, oh wow, I like how they capture that. So I've always had a eye for it. And being in business for yourself, you realize you need proper marketing, proper promotion. So it really forced me to take better pictures, in order to promote my business. So before you know it, I ended up buying a camera. Um, I was helping out a couple of friends with their projects, and I told myself, I was like, you know what? Since I've spent all of this money on this camera, I actually need to try to start making it back. So I started. I was doing a lot of stuff for free at first because I realized that's the only way you can get better is by doing it for free. And to really know if you're passionate about it. If you're not passionate enough to do it for free, then you know it's just a hobby. But I started um, I started doing it, and before you know it, I was like, you know what? Actually, I feel like this could be my second business. So that's when I started putting more effort, more money behind it. I did more research, um, bought more equipment, and it's going up from there. So
That's dope. That's dope. So you've been doing the photography. Is it a year now?
it's been a little over a year. Um, Professionally, I would say a year, but I was doing work. I probably was doing work a year, so about 2 years total.
Gotcha.
Um, so because I took a whole year just doing work for free just to get used to the camera, um, doing my research, and just getting some reps up.
Mhm.
And then I officially started it last year, so this is going on my second year
Gotcha.
of actual professional.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you've been doing this 2 years and then professional about a year, and then you've had a cell phone repair for 6.5 years. At what point into your entrepreneurship did you say, okay, enough of the day job, I'm going to work for myself full time?
Um, it's just something that clicks in your head, and you realize that you're working too hard for the amount of money that somebody else is willing to pay you. Um, Not saying that 9 to 5 jobs are bad,
Right.
because you could definitely move up and be CEO or manager of a company. That's not what I'm saying. But when you're on that bottom tier, you know that you're not getting paid enough. And I was buying and selling phones at the moment, like at that time, and I realized I was making more money buying and selling phones than I was working 2 fast food jobs.
crazy.
So I was just like, you know what? I need to take steps, toward building my own. So I actually had to quit one of my um, part-time jobs at the fast food spot and actually put more effort. So I actually went and worked for free up under another cell phone repair owner. And that's how I learned more about, that subject. And I was able to just see the process, see how everything works.
Right. So
And
initially then you were working one part-time job, then working for free under the cell phone repair, and you had your buying and selling phones on eBay thing going all at the
right,
same time, right?
right.
Awesome. Okay. So then after you start working for the other gentleman under the cell phone repair, when was the transition from working for anybody at all to working for just Linour? About how old were you at that point?
um, Probably 22, 22, 23. Um, because this was actually around the time that it was right before, I think the mother of my child, she was pregnant with my first child. And, you know, I pretty much put fire under my own butt. And, I'm just like, hey, I need to get it together because, you know, it's one thing to have to take care of yourself, but to have to take care of another human being, is my daughter, that pretty much motivated me to try entrepreneurship with no second option. So I didn't give myself an option to go back if it didn't work.
Okay. That takes a lot of guts to leave your job that's a steady paycheck. Even if you're not getting paid as much as you think you should be getting paid, it's still steady. So it's a big leap of faith to leave that and then go work for yourself. What in you let you know you could do it? What was it that said, you know what, Linour, you got this? How'd you get that?
Um, it was just faith in God, knowing that if it was meant for me, it would happen. And just determination of not willing to take failure as an option.
Hmm.
It I don't really think it was something like very in particular, other than just the faith that I have in God, that I know that He has. So even if something doesn't happen exactly how I want it happened exactly how, God wanted it to happen for me.
Amen. Amen. There are a lot of people that also want to own businesses and start their own thing, but they are stuck on the dream phase of it. They have an idea, but they just have not moved past that. What would your advice be to those people that have the dream, but just have not stepped out and done anything about it yet?
Um, it's kind of like a baby's dream would probably be to run a marathon, but you can't run a marathon until you crawl. Um, and what I tell people, just make a time chart. Make a time chart. If your dream is to have a business, um, then that's fine, but you have to work your way backwards. When they're drawing a blueprint for a house, they don't go out with the roof first. You have to make sure you do the proper steps, in order, make sure you check those steps, and everything will go, right into play. Generally, most people, if you have an idea or a business, there's nothing wrong with dreaming big, but you do have to, you know, if you have the letter X in the alphabet and you have maybe the first three letters A, B, C, um, if you write it down and you see it in front of you, you might see an L over here, or you might see a P or a Q. It's not going to be in order. You're not going to come up with a whole concept from start to finish at the beginning. But
Gotcha.
if you write it down and you slowly piece it together, you be like, okay, okay. So then before you know it, you have a whole blueprint of what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's not a whole blueprint, if you got a good, I'll say, a good starting point, even if that starting point isn't what you vision, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it, because at the end of the day, it's not going to happen if you don't. If you just sit back wondering what if, it's
Right.
never going to happen.
Right. Do you write your goals down? Is
Hmm.
that a habit you do?
Yeah, my notes, I probably have over 500 notes like in my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And where every day I just jot down stuff. And then I'll go back and I'll put keywords so I can search that keyword and it'll pull up all the notes that I said with that word. So now I'll put those in different categories. So I have a cell phone repair category. I have a Allen Studios category. I have a nonprofit category. I have a Linour Allen, you know, I even have different motivational stuff. It's so many different things that I have in there. And it's just to keep me organized when it
Mm-hmm.
comes down to what I need to do, what I need to do next, what have I already done, what works, what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a long process, but it definitely takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. I do make a habit of writing things down myself. There is, and I can't quote the chapter and verse, but something in the Bible that says, write the vision and make it plain.
Yeah.
Um, just write it down. And for those that don't believe in God, they may look at it as, you put that energy out into the universe. Others may say you're just putting it at the forefront of your mind. You write it down, you read it, and it will come to pass. I've looked at notes I've taken down years ago, even 3 years ago, and I won't delve into what the thing was, but I just realized that thing happened. I was like, oh wait, I wrote that down, and that's something I really wanted. But did always think about it. And another thing about writing things down is that you remember it better than if you just read it or if you just say it. So when you write that thing down, your goals, your dreams, your desires, it will be on the forefront of your mind. I have seen that you've gone out and you have spoken at events explaining business and marketing to people who are just getting started or have started already and just can't quite figure out that marketing piece. What's your motivator behind even helping people in that way?
Um, Me always wishing that um I had people reach out to me or and ask me, do I need help, with this, or do I need help with my business? Since that really didn't happen, and if it did, it was after I was already, kind of established. But I just want to let everybody know that it's not as hard as it seems. Yes, you do have to put in the work, but even when you go to work, working for somebody else is still, just as hard. But I feel like you get more benefits from it when you know it's for you. You're building a legacy for you and your family. Um, Whereas working for a company, they can wake up tomorrow and just say, "Hey, we don't need you." Um, but
Right.
when you're working for yourself, you almost have to give 150, 200% just because, it's you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I love giving back. I love, whether it's money, whether it's, energy, whether it's information. I love just empowering people, overall. Um, and to be honest, that is something I do want to get into, is speaking. But I've never felt confident enough to do it. But that is something that I am trying to get into more so, because the opportunities are there. Um, I actually got invited to speak at a middle school right before the COVID stuff
Oh,
happened, but
wow.
we weren't able to do that. But hopefully, when everything gets back to normal, if it ever does,
Right.
um, this might be a new normal for us. But
What was the
Yeah.
topic you were going to be speaking about?
Just as far as business and doing photography, just to
Awesome.
try to give kids a something to look forward to, as far as you don't have to jump out and work at McDonald's as your first job. You
Hmm.
can actually do entrepreneurship as your first job and do something that you would be interested in doing. It doesn't have to be photography. It could be cutting grass. It can, you know, it could be a lot of different things.
Right, right. Um, that just says to me, just exposing them to something different,
Right.
showing them that there is something other than what you may have seen or heard of. And I really believe that exposure is a very important thing for children and adults, because you never know what you don't know. You're not going to
Exactly.
think about it because it's never crossed your mind. You never heard of it. I'll give you a short story. When I was younger, a child, I lived next door to an abandoned house. And in that abandoned house, there was a family that lived there. No lights, no gas, no nothing. Um, and I didn't know it at first as a child. And I remember just looking and wondering what that experience had to be like, because me and the boy that lived there, we went to the same school, and I always wondered what that experience was like. And where I lived was not the cream of the crop. It wasn't the worst area, but it was not the best area. In my neighborhood, there was an overflow of drug addicts on the street. There was an overflow of alcoholics on the street. There were shootings and things like that. And I know that also sounds horrible. And I said it wasn't the worst area, but there are areas that were even worse than the area I lived in. It did have its upsides to living in that neighborhood, but there was a lot that went on that could have led me down a path of destruction, really. But one thing my mom always did, my mom did the best she could do for me, my sister, and my brother. So I don't remember how often. I think it was every year she would take us to a five-star restaurant. Um, Again, she didn't make a whole bunch, but she did everything she could. So she would take us to a five-star restaurant. We knew what forks to use, what knives, what spoons, whatever. And we would eat these really fancy meals and, just be exposed to that. There were other moments where she would take us, I can't remember if we took a bus or a cab, but she would take us to really nice neighborhoods and we would just walk around. And I remember just looking at the houses like, wow, people live here? Like, this is not TV. People live in these places. They leave school and they come here. And it just opened my eyes up to a different lifestyle. And I always wondered to myself, had I have not left and gone other places, what would my dreams be for myself if
Exactly.
all I was ever exposed to was the little bubble that I grew up in? Um, so I want to ask you, what advice would you have for people who haven't been exposed to things that you've been exposed to and just can't seem to dream beyond what they've seen?
I would just recommend that people just try new things, go new places, because at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to inspire you. It could be something as small as a homeless person on the side of the street, or it could be something as big as you meeting the president. You never know what moment in your life is actually going to inspire you to be great or inspire you to chase your dreams. So it just depends. You just got to get out there and do it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, Seeing that you are, just giving out information for free with the business and the marketing because you want people to be exposed to different, as well as going to the middle school, is that your drive behind Manna from Above, the Georgia nonprofit?
Um, yes. Back in the day, I think about five years ago, once I started my business, I knew I wanted to go ahead and give back. So that's where I've been putting most of my nonprofit energy behind that organization, because I know, that's something that I believe in. But I also want to do other, you know, nonprofit activities as far as giving back, especially information, because I feel like information it's certain things that aren't taught in schools. And if it's not taught in school, then we as adults, we have to teach our kids there's endless possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have you seen a lot in your own community growing up, a lot of needs that weren't met that inspired you to do something so noble?
Yes, that's probably part of the reason I do it, because I know that not only myself, but most people around me have never been exposed or never been taught these things. So I just want to do my part and see if I can at least touch. If I can only touch one person, I've done my job. But I'm trying to touch as many people as possible in my lifetime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very admirable. I love when people care about people. At one point or another, we all have somebody that helped us. Um, Even if it was something big or something very small, it was the thought behind it that made you feel better, that made you do better. I'm curious, what kind of hurdles or obstacles have you had to overcome, either personally or in business, to thrive in the businesses that you're doing now?
Um, Pretty much some of my biggest support system, as far as like my mom, my dad, like both of them passing, those were big hurdles that I had to overcome as far as knowing how to, like, not being able to pick up the phone and call them in certain situations. That that was a big hurdle that I had to overcome, that I'm still overcoming now,
Right.
but I've gotten better at it, over time.
Hmm. How long ago was the passing of your parents?
My mom, it's been about, I'll say about 6 years, and my dad, it's been about 3 or 4.
Gotcha, gotcha. I'm gonna assume that that is a big push for you in the way you parent your daughters and how much you care for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. From everything I see, you're an awesome father, and it looks like your parents instilled some awesome things in you. So God bless them for that.
Thank you.
No problem, no problem. So, what kind of community work? Just jumping back to Manna from Above, what kind of community work are they doing?
Um, so Manna from Above, they're pretty much just trying to um, give back to the kids and give them information and give them the tools to be successful. So whether it's food, whether it's guidance, whether it's just help financially, just trying to get them started on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know they help kids do resumes, they help kids with job applications. So it's a lot of different things that Manna from Above does.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for the most part, it's just uplifting the community.
That's
They,
awesome.
I keep saying they like I'm not a part of it. we, we have a different program like every so often, but they do have a community event where it's open to the public every year. It's been pushed back now. I think it's the beginning of August. Um, so if you're interested or anybody's interested in coming out, being a part of it, just definitely let me know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And their Facebook is Manna from Above Inc. If I have it.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. So I'll make sure I put note of that in the show notes. I love that children need, their basic needs met. The food, the financial support, and resume writing is a basic need. You need to know how to do that. If you don't know how to do that, you can go out into the world pretty lost. Thank God for my sister. I didn't know how to write a resume, but she did. So she was able to write my resumes. But, not everybody has an older brother or sister that knows how to do it. Maybe the older brother or sister needs help. And so that's a blessing that they're doing something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's why I love it. As soon as I seen what they stood for, I was like automatically drawn in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what can we expect to see from you next, Linour? What are your new goals and aspirations?
Um, I would really love to get into public speaking more, um, and just voicing my opinion more because I'm more of a behind the scenes person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to have my face on the forefront. I'd rather just get it done and, you know, without my hands being involved directly. But I really want to start doing more public speaking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I understand that. Not really wanting to be seen, but having something to say. You know, sometimes you can delegate and say, "Hey, do this over here," and it can happen and be awesome. But some things do come better from you, just coming
Right.
directly out of your mouth because you have something to say. Is there a major why behind what you do?
Um, if I were to put, just one major thing on it, it would probably be the fact that I care so much about people, and ultimately I want to see everybody successful. So that is pretty much my why, that drives me is, I just want to I want everybody to be successful regardless.
Yeah, yeah. When I started working with you at Publix, I did see that you cared a lot, just period, point blank, because I didn't know anything about anything coming in. And working in the deli is probably one of the most tedious positions in the supermarket. And you were very helpful. Of course, we had other coworkers that were super helpful as well, but you took time and had patience. And I could just see from your vibe that that's just how you were, period. This wasn't, I'm just like this at work. You were just that way, period. And I appreciated that about you from the start.
Well, I appreciate that.
No problem. No problem. Can you share with the people what is a quote that you live by?
Hmm. Um, if I was to name one quote, it's probably my high school teacher, Mr. Hightower. He says, "If better is possible, then good is not enough." And I pretty much use that as a quote that I live by because that's the very first thing I think about.
That's awesome. I love that quote. I'm actually going to write that down and post it in my house. If better is possible, then good is not enough. Is that right? I love that. That's something to live by right there.
Yeah, and he used to say it every day in class, and that it just stuck with me, and now I use it as a quote. I actually follow him now. I think he's like the governor of the governor. I don't want to say the actual word. I'm not 100% sure, but he's actually moved up, and I wish I could tell you exactly what he does, but he he's definitely a good role model. One of the biggest role models I would say, like in my life. So that's big.
Yeah, yeah. I just hope that everybody has a role model like that in their lives at some point. Um, Somebody they can look up to, because that's pretty awesome. I love hearing stories like that. And I really do love that quote. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to post it in my house. So where can people follow your journey and follow your businesses? What are your social media or website platforms?
Um, my personal page is Linour Allen, LINOURALLEN.
Is that on Facebook and Instagram?
Facebook and Instagram. It'll be very easy to find me because I feel like I'm like the only Linour Allen on social media. But then you can follow my cell phone repair business at A&L Cell Phone Repair and Allen Studios for my
Awesome.
photography.
Yes, I will continue to use your services as I already have. You've taken awesome pictures of my family, of events that we've held, and I really appreciate you for that. I can't wait to see what else is in store for you. I know it's going to be big things. I was impressed with the first thing. I said, "Is that Linour?" Super impressed. And not that you weren't capable of it. You were just young in my head and like, well, young people don't do things like that, but they do. They do, and you did, and you started with $1,200 in a dream, and that's dope. That's
Well,
dope.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
It feels good to know that people, have noticed what I've been trying to do and trying to accomplish. So it actually feels good.
Good. You've been doing it, and people are taking note, whether they say it or not. I really appreciate you, Linour, and my hope is that somebody is inspired from your words and your journey. Thank you for being on today.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Later, Linour.
I always felt like sleeping was a waste of time. Even when we was just hanging out, my friends would sleep all day. I'd come just banging on this window, like, come on, get up. We got the whole day. Like, leave me alone. I like sleep. But yeah, you just sleep away half your life just sleeping. You're not getting anything accomplished. So just being up and being active, you'll learn things.
I'm like, wait a minute. Ken doesn't even talk about this at all. Did you think back then that today you'd have 1 million plus downloads?
No. So once you get yourself leveled out, everything starts feeling a little easier because you don't have all that stress.
Right.
Stress make people do a lot of things they got to apologize about later. Just a few seconds could change your whole day.